The world is estimated to have started over 4.54 billion years ago. I want you to put that into perspective. So when we think about the concept of ancestors, think about how many ancestors had to come before you and transition and come before you again and transition before either you or I came into this existence. So with that being said, before we start messing around with any of these Lowa, I need you to ask yourself one thing. Have you asked the ancestor first? Hey everybody, I am Kamay Nicole and welcome to another episode of the Sunflower Shamaness. And yes, I know I'm late. You don't even want to know how many times that I recorded this. I have an issue with perfectionism. This episode, we're going to be talking about the Lowa, and I'm going to talk about the Lowa without violating any of the confines of being an initiated or closed practice, because at the end of the day, the day's got to end. What my dad would say, I have to, every time I say that. But I'm going to talk to you about the Lowa and give you as much information as I can that is information that's basic, that's already out there, that's already been published in multiple books. You may get some information that's not published in the books, but I'm definitely not going to give you or anybody any kind of inside information pertaining to real, the real, the nitty gritty into these closed practices, whether I'm talking about any variation of any of the ATRs, okay? We need to be abundantly clear. Now, before I get started, because I got a story time. I tried to record this video. Actually, I didn't try. I recorded the video the first time and I reviewed it, and while I was editing it, I was like, oh my God, I missed so many different things because I tried to do a lot of things off of memory. On your spiritual journey, pro tip, a lot of things that you do and that you learn, you really need to commit this stuff to memory because it is absolutely important. It's absolutely important. And it shows your commitment to what you're trying to get into. And the spirits know that, right? They want to see your dedication first and foremost. So I try not to rely on a lot of my notes, but there's so much information that I have to, and I just really have to take that level of perfectionism and expectation off of myself and say, hey, it's not about being perfect. It's about getting that information out here to the public because my job is to teach. But during that process, I had a whole paranormal experience happen, okay? Let me tell you, it's all fun and games. Everybody think the spiritual life is really cool and communing with the dead and, working with all of these deities, these old nature spirits and things like that. They think it's all fun and games until some paranormal activity happened in your house and you gotta deal with it. And that's precisely what happened. I had a situation where I was in the bathroom. I think I was doing my hair or something like that at that time. I was in the bathroom. The cat was sleeping on her little cat tower, and I heard this big crash. I was like, what the hell is that? I go into my living room, and one of my huge candles, I always buy these really, really huge candles for my altar space. And I had 2 or 3 of them up there, and one was picked up and literally dropped on the ground. I wish I had some kind of recording device inside of the house to actually capture that moment. It freaked me out a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. I think the spiritual journey, it should scare you a little bit. You shouldn't be overconfident with this stuff because that's how you get humbled. And when I say fear, because I'd never ever like to promote fear. You need to know that you are always safe, for the most part. However, sometimes when you get jarred like that, you get comfortable. You get comfortable and complacent. And then you realize oh shit, I could be touched. and then it jars you a little bit. So I got jarred a little bit. You'll be able to see, like, on this little bit of altar space, that absolutely nothing else on the altar was disturbed. Nothing was disturbed. There was no way, unless somebody physically came up and picked up this huge candle and threw it on the ground to the point where the entire thing, or the glass around the candle, shattered. So I had to do a little inventory. I had to do some cleansing. I had to consult with my mentor and make sure that, you know, because me, I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel like there was like some negative energy around. I didn't feel anything. And pro tip number 2 on your spiritual journey, energy sometimes can, especially negative energy, can be really good at masking itself. So you can't always rely on the fact that you feel or you can sense something. Energy in these spirits, because spirits are energy, they can mask themselves, right? So I had to take my 7 to 21 days. I had to do the cleansings. I had to get everything back to a kumbaya moment and make sure that I didn't have something else going on in my home, which I didn't really think so, but I wanted to be sure. So got with my mentor, had to go through my whole cleansing, and bam, it just really kind of put everything to a halt as far as getting the video out about the Lowa in particular, right? So those are just some instances that I really want to bring up to people. You always have to do your due diligence to make sure that your space is cleansed. Just like in one of my videos, I talked about the fact that anytime you light a candle, anytime you do anything surrounding your altar and you're communicating with the spirits, that is considered conjure. You have opened up a portal. So it's good maintenance and practice, good spiritual maintenance and practice, to close down those portals, close them, close all the realms when you're done. That is very, very important. And when we get complacent in that, sometimes something can, you know, shift through. Now, I'm not saying every time you light a candle or you burn an incense that Casper the Friendly Ghost or the Casper the Unfriendly Ghost is going to pop in. That's not what I'm saying. Please don't take that information, be paranoid about it, okay? Calm down, calm down, calm down, calm down, calm down. Practice just to do it so you don't have to worry or stress out, or it's just better to do it. It's just better to do it. Don't ever become complacent. And you don't have to do, you know, like ritualistic cleaning or, you know, cleansing out your space. You don't have to do that every day, but at least once a week. You know, you want to refresh your altars. You want to refresh the water. You want to change the incense. If the plant looks like it's dying, you don't ever want anything to expire on your altar space at all. Remember, our ancestors, they like living offerings, okay? No. You don't let anything expire. Cannot stress this enough, and I'm going to keep repeating it. I know it was supposed to be a quick story time. Y'all know how I like to get repeating stuff, but that was a moment. That was a moment that I had that jarred me a little bit. In addition to that, pro tip number 3 is that sometimes it's not even, when you have paranormal activity happen, sometimes it's not even the fact that something is like portaled through, something that's trying to hurt you, whatever the case may be. It can be energy that's being released that could wreck stuff in your home. In this case, this was negative energy, or not negative energy, but energy that no longer served me, that was being released, and on the way out the door, it just knocked some shit over. It's just like, all right, bitch, I'm gonna knock you over, you know? So that's what that was in that case, and I'm very, very grateful for that, okay? But also, when you're doing this work, the spirits, the ancestors, they will test you. And sometimes them tests be some paranormal activities. Sometimes them tests be some paranormal activities. They want to know that all your protection work is protectioning the way that it's supposed to be protecting. Okay, they're going to send you some things that's going to say like, hey, can you banish? You said you can banish. Can you banish? Can you? All right. Send the kraken. You know, like, release it. Release the kraken. So that can happen too. You know, it's not always something is out to get me. It's You're being tested. Are you true to this? Are you putting in the work? How's your ashe hitting? Your ashe is your power. How's your ashe hitting? First things first about the Lowa. We're gonna clear up the rumors. Okay, they are not gods. They are not gods. I'm gonna say this for the third time. They are not gods, and people like to put them in a position that they're not in because, again, they are going off of rumors. Really, that was rooted in demonizing the religions of the African diaspora. Okay, it's heavily rooted in racism. And again, I'm sick of having this conversation, but unfortunately, with our history, we have to have this conversation because of the reasons and the ways and the whys of why our traditions were demonized. They are a hierarchy. If we had to look at hierarchy, they have the same hierarchy as an archangel in Orisha. Okay, some of them are Lowa and Orisha at the same time, right? So just like any other westernized traditional religion, we have the same thing. So like in Christianity, for example, and Catholicism, I guess, they have God, right? But in the African traditional religions, when we think of voodoo, God is called Bandai. Okay, so you have Bandai, who is the supreme being of everything, and Bandai, which is mentioned in like the books, if you read the books on voodoo, as he, but Bandai has actual heavy feminine energy, right? Okay, we need to, we're clearing up rumors today. So Bandai created the Lowa. And where do we also see this commonality? In Christianity and in Catholicism, right? Because you have God. God created the angels. The angels were set to intercede and deal with the everyday comings and goings and plights of human beings. Also in Catholicism, we have God and then we have the saints. Again, the saints are there to intercede with everyday human interactions, comings and goings. Same principle with the Lowa. The Lowa are there to deal with humans and their everyday comings and goings and their problems, right? Because Bandai is like, hey, I got stuff to do. And Bandai possesses its will through the Lowa. So the Lowa are very familiar and can understand the plights of human beings when we go to them with our issues, because of the fact that that's legitimately their role, to deal with us and assist us in our everyday needs. They are classified as spirits. Some of them are or were human before they got deified to their actual hierarchy of status. Well, because you think like we got hierarchy, like we just made it up as humans. No, I had to come from somewhere. They were humans, and then they were deified up until, where they went to, right? And so with that being said, some of them actually have lineages. They have lineages. You're not going to find that one in a book. They have lineages. Okay? So let's just clear that up. In addition to that, some people actually become Lowa after their transition. And if you don't know what I mean by transition means what we identify as death or dying, right? Because energy doesn't die, it just transforms. So some people are already predestined to transition into that position of a Lowa before or after they die or they transition into death, right? And with that being said, these are forces of nature that have their own unique personalities. They have their own mythology. They have their own rituals, their symbols, dances, personalities. They have their own. And when I say symbols too, I mean the veves. We see that a lot. We see the veves when we're looking at TV, and the veves are drawn in a particular way, each Lowa, because there's thousands of them. There are literally thousands of Lowa or Elwa, and it continues to grow. They have their own symbols. You have to actually call on them in a specific way, use specific materials to draw their particular veve or symbol. And then when you do that, you have to draw that veve on a specific area. With the veves in particular, we never tattoo those on our body. Big no-no. It's something that you never, ever, 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 ever do. And then also when we are dealing with the Lowa, one way that we honor them is by addressing them by their proper names. So for example, we just don't make up whatever name we want to make them up, or we just don't abbreviate their names. If it's Papa Legba, you call it Papa Legba. If you have feminine energy, feminine Lowa, and it's like a mistress, it's mistress, whatever the name is. Madame, or maman. Bridget, for example, because that's a very popular one that people know about, right? That's the Baron Samedi. That's his wife. So, and that's another thing that is, I think, very, very unique and different from the westernized religions, is because in the ATRs, we never just say like, oh, this thing that popped out of the sky. No, they have brothers, they have sisters, they have children, they have husbands, they have wives. These things exist, right? And then some of the Lowa in general too are very protective of children, especially like the Baron Lowas, very protective of children. The G'day, very protective of children. And that's a big, big difference you see between what we do in the ATRs versus what we see in the westernized religions, or, you know, like the Greek mythology, if you like to read Greek mythology, things like that. Like there's a lot of sacrificing of children, where when you get to the ATRs are very, I mean, extremely protective of children. And for this very, very reason, a lot of them, in specific ones, you can go to for assistance in fertility, right? That is something that we saw in American Horror Story, for example, when Sarah, what's her last name? Paisland, something like that. She went to Angela Bassett, who played Marie Laveau, for a fertility spell so she can get pregnant. A lot of our Lowa handles fertility and issues with fertility, protecting children, protecting newborns. You go to specific ones if you are dealing with miscarriages or stillborns or things of that nature. Very sensitive topic, I know, and I'm not going to go too much further into that, but there's very specific Loas that you deal with for that. Something else that I meant to mention this in the beginning of the video when I first started talking about the Lowa, is that each spirit represents a law of the human condition as well. And when you look at the word Lowa, okay, it is derived from the French word loi, literally L-O-I, loi, which means law. Another misconception that I really want to clear up, and I want you all to hear me very abundantly clear when it comes to this, is that we do not choose the Lowa that we work with. They choose us. You cannot find this out via tarot card readings. You cannot find this out via live stream, Zoom meetings. You cannot do this. This is a particular ceremony. You have to be physically present. And during this ceremony, they have to come and choose you. This is the same concept when it comes to the Orisha. You get chosen, you do not choose. You can, like, if you find one that you resonate with and you want to work with, you want them to like show you favor, to work with you, first of all, you have to have a characteristic that matches up and align with them. That's just that. Because some of, like, for example, the G'day ain't nothing to play with at all. They're nothing to play with at all. Okay, they represent the spirits of the literal dead. They are over the cemetery, right? Just like The barons they deal with like king, like Baron Samedi in particular is the king of the cemetery, literally, right? So they're known to have very sexual natures, be very, kind of like rude and rambunctious. I don't want to say obnoxious because they don't like to be talked about like in a particular type of way, but they will come through your house and knock some shit over. Like they will wreck some shit. For real, okay? They have very ravenous spirits, so if you decide to serve them, you have to bring big offerings to them, and you have to make sure there's abundant and plenty and never let that go out because they will tear something up. But excuse me, but at the end of the day, if they choose you, they're also very protective. So people need to tread lightly when you got the G'day. They got your back. Even the barons, the baron Lowas, they got your back. People gotta watch out. Okay? Because they can wreck their life up to and including death. Transition. Don't choose them, they choose you, but you can service them, okay? Another thing that I forgot to mention with the G'day when I was talking about how there ain't nothing to play with and they have to choose you, you don't choose them, and me mentioning their characteristics is the fact that if you are someone who's a little like snooty, like you're a little uppity, they don't even like that. They don't even like that. So if that's your natural character, work with somebody else. Because they're going to intentionally do stuff to piss you off. Okay? They have a very fun nature. They love a joke. Okay? They love a joke. Okay? So if you have to have certain characteristics to work with particular Lowa or to be chosen by particular Lowas. And it's the same thing when you are choosing or looking at a particular ATR path that you want to go down. And I believe I spoke about this before. I don't know if it was on my podcast. I don't know if it was on a video. But initially when I started out in my journey, I was looking into Ifa. I resonated with it. Ifa has a lot of beautiful principles and everything. However, when I went and sat down with a mambo, they were just like, yeah, this, you kind of don't have the characteristics needed to be an initiate of Ifa, because for me personally, if something is too much like a religion, I am going to shy away from it, right? I'm a number 5 life path number, baby. I love freedom. Okay. I love freedom. So when you look at Ifa, you have to follow certain protocol. This is not the same concept or same ideology when it comes to voodoo. Voodoo is a little bit more forgiving. It's not all prim, proper, and pretty, like Ifa is. So for me to be an initiate of Ifa, I would have to change a lot about myself, and we can do a lot of things, but sometimes there's some characteristics that's just who you are. So you want to make sure that you are on the right path based on your character, because the last thing you want to do is get that divine ass whooping because you're not doing something that you're told or you're not following a proper protocol. So I also wanted to point that out because that's very, very, very important. There's 7 different nations of the Lowa. There are 3 main ones, and the 3 main ones is your Rada, is your Petro, and which is the G'day. The Rada is the benevolent. They're benevolent water spirits, actually. They are, how do I want to put this? There are deities and spirits of slaves. Some of them. And some of them are not only water spirits, but they also have a water and fire element together. La Sarin is very benevolent. She's a part of the Rada. Right? She's a part of the Rada Nation. And when you look at mainstream media, the only thing they show you about La Sarin is her fiery nature. They really draw her out to be this evil thing, but she's really benevolent, right? Papa Legba. This is why a lot of us get so pissed off at mainstream media, because they're doing stuff to the oogity boogity boo and to demonize ATRs. It's because they like to take Papa Legba, who is very, very benevolent, a grandfather spirit, if you will, which is why his manifestation is of a grandfather who has a cane. And they like to mix it with the Baron. And this is why we got pissed off at American Horror Story, because people are the Baron Lowas, they are petro. They're fire elements. They're fire spirits. They're very warlike. They actually assisted in the Haitian Revolution. Okay, these are the spirits that, like, if you want to get some shit cracking, you're gonna get some shit cracking, and they're gonna do it expeditiously. You know, because that fiery nature, they're gonna handle it. But you can't just be sicking or use the Lowa as like they're your attack dogs, whatever. Because especially if you just like in your feelings and you're completely unbalanced and you're just reckless, because if you send them to handle somebody that's messing with you, it could be up to and including death. So realize like what y'all getting into and playing with, right? We got really, really pissed off about American Horror Story because that was not Papa Legba. And it's like, oh, Papa Legba. Baron is petro, warlike, king of the cemetery. The G'day work for the Baron. The thing that I wanted to say about the Rada Lowa, in addition to them being very benevolent, they are defensive. They're stern. They're going to be very kind. They're creative. You go to them and you summon them in different ways. You don't summon all the Lowa. You got to get to know them. You have to learn their characteristics, learn how they manifest. You have to learn how they manifest, because again, too, there are some the Marasa. The Marasa are children Lowa, right? But they're twins. You have to know the difference, because there are some other Lowa that do exist that they're very small in stature, and if you see them and they manifest, you would think and make the mistake that they are children, but they're not. And you cannot treat that Lowa like a child spirit. Like you cannot, like, do not do that. But there are children Lowa, okay? But the Rada is very, very benevolent. But this, and I just remember what I want to say for the hoodoo practitioners. When you hear us say that the folks in the black church are in there catching water spirits, that's what we mean. They're catching slave spirits. And they thinking that they touched by the Holy Ghost, and that they didn't call it a water spirit. Okay, the senders, they didn't call it a slave spirit. Okay. We're gonna leave that there. Also forgot to mention when I told you that there's 7 nations. The 7 nations are associated with different regions of Africa, different parts of Africa. And that is something that you have to learn. I'm trying to wrap this up here because, again, I'm not going to do too much because this is a closed practice. Or Nago are another division of, and that's 21 division, but they're another division of the Lowa. Right? These are your earth element spirits, okay? So you would work with them when you are dealing with earth, when you are working fertility. Those are the ones too. I'm like going in my head and I'm thinking about it, and I'm like doing the edit so I can look at my notes, because I'm like, don't do too much. Don't do too much. And I just went ahead and got my notes so we can go ahead and wrap this up. If you did find this video informative and you learned something or you want to learn more, please help my channel grow. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. What I did want to say, and I got my notes about the G'day. They belong to the family of the unremembered or unclaimed dead. They're loud, and I told you they ain't nothing to play with. They're loud and rude spirits. They transport the souls of the dead, and they make sexual and obscene jokes. They have their associated colors, which is purple and black. All of the Lowa have their associated colors, just like they have their associated veves, okay? The Baron spirits, and when you get to know them, you need to know, like, who's all associated with them. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I know some of you all's like living situations, because I know y'all come through, me through TikTok. Some of y'all's living situations, as you know, this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? So if you want to learn how to mask what you're doing, or camouflage, which in reality we all should camouflage, and I think I'm going to make a video about that. but we all should be camouflaging, then you should know who they're associated or synchronized with. Okay, just like the Baron Samedi, the king of the cemetery, his symbol is the crossroads. He's synchronized with Jesus Christ. Who do we see with Jesus Christ? What's the symbol? The cross. He's also associated with Saint Martin de Porres. Learn so you can camouflage. Learn some you for camouflage. Also, the Petro. The Petro are, I told y'all about them before. They are the fire, the warlike. They assisted in the Haitian Revolution. They do have healing spirits. They are a duality of lightness and dark, but they are aggressive by nature. They're very fiery. They came from Haiti. They're from Haiti. So, and then again, let's see. We have Congo Lowa. How I figure about Congo. We have the Congo Lowa, right? From the Congo region of African. The Nago is from the Yoruba of Nigeria. Also, Ibo, Nigeria. So that's about all I'm going to really get into with the Lowa. The next video is going to be about the Orisha. And even with the Orisha video, I'm not going to do too much because, again, that is a close practice. And so we're going to go over some of the basics, things that people can find, you know, in books. I may sprinkle a little of, a little of like some stuff that you may not find in the books, but still within the confines of not violating these closed practices. I'm not turning my back on my people for nobody. No, can't do it. So that's where we are. That's where we are with that. Again, like, subscribe, comment, share, and you can expect the Orisha video. And then after the Orishas, I am going to start talking about some of the planetary, you know how everybody tells like, well, work with Jupiter if you want to manifest and on a Thursday and da-da-da-da. We're going to start getting into those planetary energies and talking about them and their characteristics and everything that's associated with them, offerings, because that's open information that I can talk to you about and y'all can learn. Okay, so until next time, be well, learn.